What this game does is it delivers high-stakes poker with no money on the table, except your soul.
All that I got will never stop. I give it all. Straight to the top, will never stop. I give it all. All that I have, I let it be. Cause nobody's better than me. What do you see? Give it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Good gaming champions, and welcome to a very special episode of Champions of Tabletop. We have myself, we have Deon, we have Dillon, the two Ds. But today we have a very special guest. We have Curt Covert of Smirk Dagger, everybody. Curt,
hey, everyone.
It is so awesome to have you on this show. We are such big fans of Smirk and Dagger and everything you guys did. Obviously, even though it hasn't come out yet, you are nominated for a couple Golden Meeple Awards for 2025. So we'll have to wait and see if you win any of those. But thank you for your time tonight and for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. I love coming on and chatting and talking about the passion that I have for, one, the industry, and two, for a lot of the games that we make. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know, Deon, you are such a fan of Smirk and Dagger in your store and Curt yourself. So here's your chance, bud.
No, Curt. Curt knows. I see him at every event that I see him, and I pull him aside and tell him how much I appreciate everything he does. Him and his team. It was him for a very long time, and now he has a team. So that's good.
True.
But yeah, it was Curt for a very long time. I was pulling aside, but yeah, everything. I mean, it just seems like there's very few studios out there that keep doing every year something you've got to look forward to. Places like Stonemaier, Capstone Games, Smirk and Dagger hits that list. Every year you got to kind of see what they're bringing to the table because it's going to be something fun and enjoyable for you and your friends. So,
Well, that's always the goal, and I think probably all publishers that is the goal. Everyone wants to bring something exciting to the table, and but yeah, we certainly. We really kind of scour the world trying to find like the things that are gonna get people talking. They're just gonna stop traffic and say, "Ooh, what is this?" And so that is one of the things that I look for in games that we come out with.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about tonight because you have a Kickstarter that we are absolutely enthusiastic to share with everybody. Deon and I have had a chance to play it. Dillon, too busy with
not so much.
other stuff. We won't
Way to
judge,
rub it in.
but of course,
We're not
that's gonna
judging
be-
Dillon.
which of course is going to be Hell of a Deal, which is right now on Kickstarter through this Friday. So you only have a couple days. What is that? April 8th, April 9th?
10th, I think, is the
April
last
10th,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's wrapping up soon. So if you're seeing this on Wednesday or Thursday, make sure you go check out the Kickstarter page with Curt, Smirk and Dagger, and Hell of a Deal. We're going to talk about that game in a lot of detail here because it's one that you need to know for 2026. And Dillon, I know as you've been getting into the board game space a lot more, obviously designing Huddle, but as you've become a bigger player, you've been drawn to a lot of Smirk and Dagger stuff too.
I mean, when I came to visit you guys, Enthroned was like, in an immediate play. You guys sat me down. We got to experience this. I play a lot of two-player games with my wife, so I'm always on the lookout. And even that was like, it's just been an instant hit in the household. Boop's great as well. And then we came across Hell of a Deal, and I don't know if there's a game I'm more excited about, to be like completely honest. Everything about it, the theme, the design, the artwork, and Curt, your energy pitching that game too is just like bravo, sir. Yeah, it's so you've added another fan to the list with me.
No, I'm delighted.
So with that said, we're going to get to Hell of a Deal in just a little bit, but I think it would be we'd be remiss if we didn't take the opportunity to get a little more background on Curt and how you came to Smirk and Dagger and the journey that you've had to survive in this industry for as long as you have, which is quite impressive. Because obviously this is an industry of love and passion, and you have to really want to be a part of it to succeed as long as you have. And so, let's kind of take us back to the beginning, Kurt, and tell us, how did you fall in love with board games? Like, was there a specific game or moment that really hooked you in?
Oh man. So yeah, well, I've always been a lover of board gaming. I think though, high school, like everybody, I was really into Dungeons and Dragons. Though I had like it was the '80s, and my D&D group was me and six women, and I was not the DM. Um, it was a great time, and but it was after college, and once I moved out to LA, that I met a friend on a movie set, Fritz Bronner, who, by the way, also has a game he's working on right now called Liftoff. It's a revisioning of his game about the space race. Um, and he kind of introduced me to modern board games. I hadn't really seen a lot of the modern board games, and so he got me into playing Axis and Allies and a bunch of other stuff. Um, Including, like, I helped him, play test the game he was working on at that time, and so just the idea of you can make a board game was, partly because I was hanging out with Fritz. Um, but in any case, I got inspired by Tom Jolly and his game Wiz War, and what I loved about that game was the high level of interaction, the take that. I loved all of that, and the emotional roller coaster it put you on. And that was kind of formative, because when I decided I wanted to like try my hand at making games, I was looking for games that had that was a lot of interaction. Take that, emotional roller coasters, holding your fist, shaking it, and cursing their name, and hence Smirk and Dagger. Um, and that was really the impetus for the idea of the company, even before I had a game, because the first couple games I came up with were trash. Like, just watch paint dry on the wall. It was more fun than what I did. And I finally said, no, you know what? Plant your flag. Like, you're a marketer. That's what I did for my day job. It's like, how are you going to position yourself? Why would someone pick your game over someone else's? What are you going to stand for? And I looked at like mission statements of a lot of different companies. We make great games for everybody. All right, that's not a mission statement, really. So
Something you're supposed
I
to
said,
do. Yeah.
right. So I said, all right, well, let me stand for something I really love. And so for 14 years, I made backstabbing games. As take that and nasty as you could get it. I love the whole interaction that it created at the table, and that's what I stood for. Um, I didn't do anything but that. But eventually, I ended up deciding I was actually thinking about going full time. I was doing this concurrent for 14 years with my very
Wow.
demanding day job of being a marketer. So I said, well, I'm going to have to broaden my shoulders and appeal to more people. And so the first game I tried, I was like, well, a push your luck game is kind of like a screw yourself game. That's kind of close. So I had this cool little pub style dice game that was push your luck. It was called Sutaku. And it was great, but I brought it to the Gamma Trade Show, and every retailer who came by was like, wait a second, where's the dagger in this Smirk and Dagger game? And like, oh, okay, I have really planted the flag hard. So I had to like really pivot and find a way to like broaden my shoulders at that point.
So, what was the moment where you kind of realized as you were going through the development? Because you kind of talked about some of the games you had in those early stages, and some of them you kind of were not the most enthused that you had created. What was the moment where you kind of said, "Okay, you know what? I think that I can really turn this into a career instead of marketing"?
Yeah. Well, so it's actually two pronged. Like, so the first one was a game that I was like, you know what? I think I have a game that is going to break through and potentially succeed. And that was our first game, Hex, which was back in 2003. It was the first time one of my designs was getting people saying, dude, when is this coming out? And so I hand assembled 100 copies. At that point, it was like Kinko's, but it was a copy center. Like I Xeroxed these things onto parchment board, hand cut the damn things, and walked into Gen Con. The first time Gen Con was at Indy. And I had a little card table with an 8.5, 11 sign on it in a retailer's booth. And if you've ever been to Gen Con, like it's a sea of like craziness. And the fact that I had enough people come, sit down, be like enthralled with the game, and I basically sold out. And I was like, okay. I went home to my wife and I was like, listen, I think I actually have something. So I talked to her and then put my house on second mortgage and made a game. Don't
That's a
don't do
commitment.
that.
Don't
But
do that, Dillon. Don't do that.
yeah. But that said, there was no Kickstarter back in the day.
Yeah.
So that was my only way forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was so obviously you don't have the marketing. You came from a marketing background. But as you got Smirk and Dagger off the ground, what was kind of the vision that you had, or was it just, hey, let's just try to make some stuff and see if it works?
Well, so like I said, like my whole background in gaming was the love of the backstab. So that was the flag I planted before I even made my first game that actually came out.
But
And
you
then
did
it was
cross over a little bit into Smirk and Laughter. There was
I
a point
did.
a few years ago, right? It was like 4 or 5 years ago.
It
You were
was
like, we're going to
like
push
8.
this. Oh, it was
Yeah,
8
it was
years
like
ago?
8 years ago.
Yeah, it was like, I'm
And
going to
that's
push this, and it didn't go as well as you think it did, or
what no, so it did. Like
oh,
so yeah, when I went full time, and honestly, the decision to do so, it was very hard to leave the job that I had that was paying for my family, going to college, and doing all that stuff, right? I couldn't just like abandon that. However, I went through a couple rounds of successive layoffs. And I'm like, oh, this is the universe telling me, like, this might be the time to actually detour and jump off. So I sat again with my wife and I said, listen, if there's ever going to be a time, I feel like this is it. And so you're right. And that's when I said, backstabbing games are great fun for me, but if I am going to build a company that's going to feed us, I have to make sure it appeals to a broad audience. And therefore, because I had the learning about like trying to like step outside of my lane, I was like, no, I'll create a sub brand, the Smirk and Laughter brand, and it at least will communicate that there's something else coming from my company. And it was successful in that it allowed me to produce my first cooperative game, my first abstract strategy game with Shobu.
Mhm.
Um,
Shobu's cool.
Games like Before There Were Stars, which was this just wonderfully warm storytelling game. Like, it allowed me to do all kinds of things I've never done before. And I really, as just a designer and a developer, loved like dipping my toe into some new arenas, which was great. More importantly, the titles actually started selling better because it really was a bigger audience. Backstabbing was a niche, and it was kind of a shrinking one because I think,
It
back
became more
in
casual. Yeah.
yeah,
Gaming became more casual than it did more competitive.
yeah, and back in like, the 80s into the 90s, like, Steve Jackson Munchkin and Robo Rally, and like there was a lot of stuff we were like, get them. And then it started becoming a lot more Euro style was really the way forward for a lot of board gamers. So this provided me an opportunity to expand a lot. And at some point, probably 3-4 years into that journey, I did something else really important, and I decided that I had to stop making games, and I had to start making products. Obviously, they had to be great games, but how can I then take them further? How can I identify things that are just going to pop, either because of the table presence, a theme no one's seen before, um, uh, is it the packaging, the art style? Like something has to stop people and get them talking about it.
Well, especially in
P-
today's age with these seas of games coming out, you've
Yeah.
really got to be able to stand out in that mixture of like, yeah, I've seen this. This does this better. That does that better. Yeah, this looks over. You got to kind of get a something that, and so I agree 100% with that focus point of like, hey, I gotta. Everybody's doing this. I've got to stand out a bit. And how do I stand out? Cable presence, thematics. Those are really the only thing because the mechanics of the mechanics, and they're not going to change. They haven't changed in 20 something years. They're not going
Yeah.
to take. There's nothing new that you could really do with a game and a board. So, but yeah, that's I agree 100%. I think you do a very good job at finding those titles that you flip over and you put the bat on it, and it does. You bump the little cat off and you flick the thing, or even you were good at that way back with Shobu, even like just
Yeah.
the rocks and the rope. You didn't need the rope just things
So
like that you add extra that gives it that little bit to kind of stand out.
so weirdly, Shobo was the one that I pulled everything back.
Oh, interesting.
The designers actually like what you see on the table is absolutely the game that they presented. Wood boards, the stones, the rope, all of it. It was part of their original presentation, and I fell in love with it. Not only was it beautiful, but it was such a brilliant strategy game. And that's where I was like, why can't I have a pretty thing? I, I I'll change my brand. Let's not do backstabbing. And Shobu was like my first entree into that. And through that progression, they had presented me the game, which was actually called Sumo Stones, which is why the rope was there.
I could see
right?
that. Yeah.
And you're trying to push stones out of the arena, right? So it made complete sense. But this was the one time where I said, you know what? Your theme is holding this game back. Sumo Stones it sounds forgettable. It sounds like a gimmick. It doesn't sound like the amazing abstract strategy game that this is. It doesn't have gravitas. So I went on a hunt for like the perfect Japanese word that is like a balance of light and dark, and Shobu is actually that word. And so paring back was actually the magic of that one, where some of the other games I was like, all right, where can we take it and push outwards?
Well, and to kind of push a little further in the thing, that's where I think this next game that you're releasing really comes through with you pushing it probably further beyond it than most games are. Because I mean, this is what when I played it, this is what a retail version is going to look like. And to me, it felt like a Kickstarter version, right? Like it,
Yeah.
and you kind of like, this is the way I want it, and it felt very nice with the extra pieces. And how do I soup up, a card playing game? How do you soup up a card playing game? You did a great job at souping that up. The graphics, the art, it feels very Cupheadish, like
Yeah.
the Cuphead art that you like, the old school. So kind of to go in that same realm that you're in, I think with this game, you really pushed forward with the design and push. And you have in the
thank you.
past with a lot of things. I think even Enthroned, right? They didn't when we
Yeah.
played it, when I played it and taught it to Dillon. Dillon's like, you don't need these massive pieces, but man, they're really cool. Like these are pretty
Yes,
cool. You could have
so
just played
good.
with those little move pieces if you wanted to. You didn't need
Yeah.
them. But those buses were nice. And then when I told him the price, he was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm leaving with this. I'm leaving with
Yeah.
this."
Well,
So
and to be fair, Sawyer West, the designer, was the proof of the pudding in that. He sold me on that execution because I had seen the design a year and a half prior. And at that time, the game was exactly the same game. And it was a hexagonal board, and it was, hexagonal pieces. Those same pieces that are on the sideboard,
was on the
those
main
were
board.
the same. There were the same pieces on the main board. And when I played it, I was like, cool. Nice. I like it. And I came back a year and a half later, and I walked by the table, and I didn't have his original game in my head, but he had 3D printed these amazing fantasy figures for the game board, and I was like, what is this?
That's it.
And I said, okay. And so, and the difference, you're like, it shouldn't matter at all. It's the same game. And it is. But the gravitas, the feeling you get moving those big pieces, every move carries weight. You feel like you're doing a thing. And that is different than pushing a chip around a board. So sometimes those small nuanced things make a big emotional impression on someone and a big perceptual problem, like perception of what this game really is.
And
So
we could get into the deep meaning of why we play board games and everything else. But realistically, when I sit down to play a board game, I want to play with the pieces. I want to move the piece. I want something
Yeah.
nice to touch and move. And I'm very tactile when it comes to that.
Same.
And so, if not, I'll play a video game, right? Like, I mean, if I care about graphics, I can play a video game and get that same feeling, but I want to touch and move and have this cool object that I'm pushing around the board.
Yeah.
And so I think that for gamers like me, you've hit that point of like, hey, we can give you this, even in a simple 2-player game that isn't real heavy, we could still give you that great tactile feel without hitting your pocketbook so heavy as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even your game that you have now, what's the Kickstarter cost on that? I mean, you guys have it. I can't remember but it's pretty reasonable. It's not crazy.
Well, so I mean, it's up there, right? So
Yeah.
Hell of a Deal is it's going to retail in stores for $75. The backers are getting it for $65. So that's a nice price break for supporting us early.
Well,
but when you think about what's in the box,
yeah, I was about to say,
when
you look at what's in there, that's a good price. That
It's
was the
unbelievable.
woo, not the oh my god, that's crazy. The woo was like what you're getting in the box, the chips, how many chips are in there, how
Yeah.
the individual mats. It comes with what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mats, or yeah,
Yep.
it's like ridiculous. And even the mat, the art on the mats look amazing. And to be able, and it shows you where everything goes. It's very easy setup, very easy cleanup even. And for that price is I mean, that's a killer deal. That's a killer
Well,
deal.
you know, the thing was when we started looking at the game, and Cameron Reed, the designer, he showed it to us at Unpub, which is a convention for game designers to kick the tires of each other's designs, help each other out. We go there as part of the community. We also go there to see what's around. So
It's a little early.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we sat and we played this game with him. And at the time, it had a very different aesthetic. All the devils were like woodcut. They almost looked like they came out of scripture, and they had like actual demon names and things on them. So I was like, it's got a cool vibe. I was a poker fan. Gaten was a poker fan, and we sat and we were like, well, poker against the devil? First of all, sign me up.
Yeah,
Second of all, the whole point is to cooperatively cheat just so you can stand a chance of winning. I'm sold on concept. So now let's play it. And we played it, and it was legit terrific. And he had already printed his prototype was on these giant neoprene mats. So it felt like you were at a poker table. And he had mocked up actual poker chips on real poker chips. Now, the difference of, many times people will overproduce a game for Kickstarter to do the bells and whistles.
Hold on. Sometimes
I'm just
people
saying.
Dillon, sometimes people overproduce.
Sometimes
many
people
chips was in
overproduce
Huddle?
games. There's maybe 120 clay poker chips, but
Yeah. But what I will say is, there are some things that absolutely, I think, become a mandatory part of the experience. Quaxaquedlinburg, right? Those chips, when you pull them out of the bag, now they have a cardboard version, but if you get these sexy ones with the little resin pieces,
yeah.
believe me, like that was worth paying for because it brings a whole great aesthetic quality to the game that I would miss if I didn't have it. And when you think about poker is a very nuanced, tradition-filled game. And to think about playing poker with anything less than like legit
Oh,
quality
that
chips,
sound.
why would I do it?
No, yeah.
Like you can't. So if you're playing the gang and you've got like the lighter plastic chips, that was totally fine for the gang. You're not playing poker. It's a poker mechanic in a different game, and that's cool. And it was a nice mnemonic. But if I'm legit wagering with poker chips, I want to feel those chips.
Mhm.
By the same token, I want to play on something that feels like a poker table. And if you don't own one, how do I replicate that? My
Well,
God,
and to leave that spot where in the middle where it says the pot and you're throwing the chips into that pot feels just
yeah,
like you're picking it up and you're going, dropping it down. It just feels like the poker element that you're playing, like I'm going
yeah.
to push my luck type of thing and drop the chip. So even the
Actually,
small design elements, right?
it
For
sounds like
me, it
such a
hurt my
good
heart
time.
more of the times, and I'm like, "Oh, gotta bet here. I really don't want to do this."
Yeah. But I said, listen, we have the opportunity. We can either create a base game and do it on the cheap, sell people a $40 game, and have a deluxe version. But who wants to play with poker with and it's not a board game about poker. You're playing poker. So no one wants to play with anything less than that. So let's offer not a deluxe. Let's offer a premium game. And it is the just straight retail game. And yes, it's going to be a little bit more, but people who will appreciate it are going to freaking love it.
Did
Yeah.
designing
That
your
kinda led into
previous
one of the
sorry.
big questions I wanted to ask you about with this game too was, with obviously Cameron Breed being the developer, I think that always goes into the question for any publisher and designer is like, what kind of player experience are you trying to create with this game? Like,
Yeah.
what is the ambition? And so for you, it kind of sounds like a deluxe feel poker game.
Yeah. We just wanted it to feel premium. And like even on the box, like when this box, like when you see it on the shelf, like that gold foil,
Yeah,
like
looks so good.
it screams. And like even if you're just like some
Yep.
stores are only going to see that, but you know what? That's still
That's
impressive.
enough. Yeah.
And so that makes a big difference because I mean that's your number one marketing tool right there is the box.
Mhm.
And then by God, if any retailer actually puts it on a demo table, they're gonna
Gone.
fly.
Oh.
They're just gonna fly.
This retailer will, by the way. This retailer
Yeah.
will be putting it on the table.
Should-
So with the one of my questions kind of goes back to the previous game you released, which was very successful last year, A Place for
Yeah.
All My Books.
Yeah.
You decided to go with a base version and a deluxe version with that. The deluxe version, I still have people walk in my store and ask for. I'm all sold out, obviously. And I'm sure everybody else is as well. The deluxe version, did that help you kind of get call me. Did the deluxe version help you because of the success of that deluxe version? Did that help you kind of push in that direction a little bit more? Like, is that something that you kept in mind as because I mean, those mats are all stitched on the end. Those are nice mats. Like the mats
Yeah.
that you got with it, the extra stuff that kind of came with that game and kind of made I don't want to say a basic, but it isn't very difficult. The game is not a very difficult game.
No.
But it has the right elements, like most games, that makes it
Yeah.
shine. So with that of the deluxeified version, did that help at all with this title pushing forward or no? Like that was like
Well, so we've always, when we've done Kickstarters, when there's been an opportunity to do something a little special, then we have done that. And even for A Place for All My Books, the standard retail version still has all those wood tile books,
Yes.
with the routing and the printing on them. Like it's a quality presentation. But we were like, well, if you're a real book fan, yeah, a hot foil gold stamp book is probably more gooderer.
more gooder.
Proper grammar. Proper grammar.
It's those mats, I think, is what really sells it big time. Is those
Yeah.
mats with it? That was huge because you put
Yeah.
those four together with the game, and they pull it out and go, "Oh, that's why that's that price," and they grab the mats.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but but yeah, we've had success in the past with doing some higher end things. Night Cage, when we did the acrylic tiles, did very well for us. And then there have been some products that maybe didn't need the deluxification, that seemed like, oh well, you know probably could have gone just with the basic on this one.
That's
And
blasphemy for Matt. Matt doesn't.
yeah,
He needs deluxification for everything.
I
He's
have
got to have a
to.
little bit of everything, and he has to have the
yeah.
top level of it. But he's the
Like I
Kickstarter
had to
fanatic.
throw an
So
extra $10 to you, Kurt, in the Kickstarter, just so I felt like I deluxified something. So
just to feel like you were getting something more than nobody else was getting. I understand.
Dylan, you got a question?
Yeah, I'm curious. So it sounds like the initial experience of playing the game was pretty close to where, like, thematically, what you have today. I'm curious on the path from taking it, like the first time you played it to where you are today. Kind of what are some of the bigger changes, and kind of what forced some of the evolution of the game of where it is today, and kind of what are some of the things that, like, maybe you changed and then you've come back on. Like, I'm just kind of curious on how you've gone from that initial version to where we're at.
It's a great question. So the first way to answer that is that Cameron really delivered us a pretty tight game.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And so a lot of the executional stuff was it was there at its core. When Gaten and I got it back to headquarters and really started sitting with it, one of the things that we do is we won't really make any changes until we know it at least half as well or better than the designer does. And very often a designer will be at some point, like, they'll get like 85% before they're too close to the design to be able to distinguish the gaps and opportunities.
Mm.
So one of the things that Gaten championed, I think, really early on was, in the original design, the bosses, and all of the bosses, of course, that they've got their own default hands, and they've got, importantly, special abilities that govern how they're going to make the game different. The original design, those bosses made the game harder, not necessarily different. So Gaten took a look at that and said, well, what if these bosses more changed how you looked at strategizing for this hand versus last hand? How is it going to change gameplay and your strategy? And that creates a more interesting opportunity from round to round. So he came up with a number of solutions to, like, kind of highlight that, and then together we did some additional ones. And of course, whenever you do that, you always want to check in with the designer and say, hey, here was a gap or an opportunity that, here's one of the things we're thinking about. And Cameron's like, oh no, I get it. Like, that's cool. So a lot of the things, like, even some of them don't necessarily make the game harder per se. Like, we've got, like, Jack Potts here. Now, Jack Potts, his ability is that as he's being a boss at the table, after the flop and the turn and the river, 3 cards get flipped out, and if they match anything on the community board, they stack, and you might have, like, up to 5 pairs on the community, and it's all
Right.
part of the common hand. Now, that's not making the game harder. That's actually giving you opportunity as players. But of course, it's a community hand, so it's giving those same opportunities to the boss. And you're either going to, in this game, because it's cooperative, everyone can win and everyone can lose against a boss. So a lot of it is, well, if you're going to do all these things to, like, modify the game, where are the levers that you can create new interest points? In this case, it's like, okay, so he right now has trip 7s. Sounds like a scary backup hand, but when all these pairs start developing, you're like, actually, you know what? a full house is actually a very real potential problem in this
Yeah.
game. And now you start like ratcheting up. Well, if I don't have it, maybe I need to dump. You know what? Let's look at his cards and make sure he doesn't already have it. Like, so you start playing differently with different bosses, and different things become more important. Sometimes seeing their cards is a lot more important than other times.
Yeah, it's super
So
interesting.
yeah, it was that was one of the things. The other thing that we changed, it used to be that the bosses were of 3 power types. And they were supposed to be like harder and harder as you went. And you had to pass through those walls. And that figured into a very different end game where it was almost Outlast. And we decided that poker being what it is, I mean, poker will poker. And sometimes you just get a bad hand, and what are you going to do?
The dealer.
Yeah. So
that's what I call just playing poker. That's how poker is for me.
That's how poker works for you.
That's simple. Cool. That's poker.
Well, so we didn't want the game to end because you had a couple bad hands. So we and honestly, as we were building the bosses, now that they weren't just getting harder, they were getting just more interesting. It didn't matter whether you necessarily passed the 4 bosses before you got to the end table.
And I tell you, Curt, that was one of the things I enjoyed about it, was that you got kind of, I think, 3 or 4 rounds to prep for the big dog, right? So you could tell this isn't going well. We really need a couple good hands before we start getting into the big dog, because we're going to lose running into Nick Haas every time, right? So I loved that. And then not only that, but then if you beat Nick Haas, you've got that secondary challenge, which is like, oh, you're good. Let's see if you're this good, right? So
and then you face the devil himself. Yeah,
I loved that one. That was great.
So the fact that, you know, what you're really doing in the first 4 rounds is you're trying to build a pot that, you know, if you do lose hands to Nick House or the devil, yeah, okay, you can pay them the souls they require and stay in the game. But it is possible for you to do pretty terrible all the way through the first 4 bosses, not really have many souls in your collective pot. And if you can turn around and have a great set of hands in those last 2 rounds, you can skate through. And you're not prevented from going forward by losing to one of those early minions. You just don't gain, I guess the security of having more souls in your pot. The real danger is all of these bosses, or at least most of them, are interesting honeypots. They are going to try to tempt you to push your luck beyond where you probably should. Here's a little bit of an upside, but it's going to cost you a little something. And if you make it, great. But you've ticked up all the temptation each time you've gone after that. And if 2 people hit 10 temptation, that's it, game over. And managing that clock is actually where the strategy of the game is. And conserving, like most Texas Hold'em games, there are times like you're like, oh no, you know what? I'm only going to hurt the team. I need to drop. I'm going to fold. Now, unlike Texas Hold'em, folding before you see the flop is insane. If you look at your 2 cards, you have no idea. You might have a 2-3. Great. It might turn out to be amazing when you see the flop. But yeah, so stay in at least past the flop, and then really think hard about whether you've got a real upside or whether you're just chasing a dream. Because if you chase too many dreams, you will lose the game.
And sometimes folding helps out everybody else at the table, because you can fold, which you show your discard out, and then now they can grab a card that they needed that you had that you didn't know they needed. So, I mean, sometimes it's kind of like this wishy-washy back and forth, working together without giving too much information. We were kind of struggling with that a little bit. And after getting our butt kicks like 3 times in a row, we were like, okay, we need to share more, because we're gonna cheat a little more than cheating, because we're tired of losing. So it still was pretty rough. So
that temptation gauge was, when you explained it to me, like such a genius mechanic. Was that in the original concept of the game, or is that something that got added in? I mean, well done, Cameron. Bravo.
Yeah, it absolutely was part of the game.
That's cool.
And I think it was the soul pool the gate that I added for the end game, but the temptation wheel was always there, and it's just that it used to be even more punishing than it is now. So by adding the second lever, we could lessen the hard reality of the temptation wheel a little bit and allow an interplay of managing two resources.
So it was a
So
little too much dagger, is what you're telling
well,
me.
so yeah,
That's what it was.
Too much dagger.
yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I think we felt the most is the temptation wheel is the thing that's going to break families apart when you play. Because when you're looking at somebody and they're all in and in their mind it's going to work out and you just see them play chip after chip on every bet and it's like you know that one's 2, right? Like it's going to
Yeah.
cost you 2 if you don't win, right? I just want to make sure you know this. I'm good, and then they realize they played it wrong, and now everybody's got to bail them out the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it never happened to me,
Yeah,
but a guy
yeah,
I
yeah,
know,
yeah. It never
a
happened to
guy
you.
I know that happened to.
Well,
It felt like we needed to start with double the souls than we digitally had, and there's need to be like an easier. If you're as bad as these guys, start with double
So-
the amount of souls in order to get to the end. Because every time we got to the end, it was like, hey, if anybody loses to Nick, we're done. Like we're not getting by it because we don't have enough souls to bail us out. We are in the deep here. So it seemed like every
So you
time we were
guys-
getting there, that was the situation.
You guys didn't win one game?
No.
You just now there's the dagger.
'cause I
Kurt.
wasn't there, right?
There's the
all right,
dagger.
all right. Except that they played their first 2 entire games incorrectly.
That is true. No, that's we were using, like you said, he had 3 7s, so he always had a full house when we played against him because we were using those 3 7s and the 2 cards on the flop or of the community cards to make it a full hand.
Yeah.
Because-
this is a backup hand. It doesn't add to anything. It's this or the cards that the devil holds.
Yeah, and that's
So-
a great distinction because you kind of mentioned that beforehand, Kurt, that we were not the first you've heard play that way, and I think that that's something really important for people as they
Yeah.
get this game in their hands, is to know it's one or the other in its entirety. They do not blend because that
Yeah.
was like I said, like Deon said, we got absolutely steamrolled in the most embarrassing way. I blame my 83-year-old dad on that. But
Wasn't
was
his
one
fault
of
we were
those-
teaching it. It was our fault 100%.
it was not our fault. It was his fault for
Well, I had the
They're gonna
book, so
fall down.
I'll take the blame.
Yeah, but it was one of those where, as we were going through it, to your point, like every hand they were getting full houses, and it's like there's only 3 hands that we can get, and it's like we've got to get a royal flush, we've got to get a straight, and it's like we're looking at this like this game has no get. Like Kurt hates us. Like he does
Yeah.
not want you to enjoy this game.
No, not even
And
a
then,
little bit.
and then finally, it's like this can't be right. After we got absolutely decimated, and we didn't even stand a chance against Nate, and so it's like, okay, let's play it again. Let's look at the rules though, and that's when it was like, how dumb. Like it's on the card
When we
or it's on the board. It's
And to
one
be
of the
fair,
2.
we started with the suggested 4 that you start with, right? The suggested, we did that for our initial game. And the first lady, I believe it is, that has it, she has all 5 of her cards as a backup. So we just assumed moving forward, the next one doesn't have 5 cards and had 3. So we
Ah.
assumed we had to replace those 2 out of an assumption, not in the book where it says only use one or the other. We just skimmed right over that. So I mean, how many people have played games wrong? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Well, and so you brought up another good point though too. The skill level of players as it relates to poker. On the plus side, it is a cooperative game. So we have found that people who are passingly familiar with poker, don't really, I can't tell you exactly how the ranks all go, but I have a general understanding. I played a little, or I've seen it played. Like those kind of poker players, because it's cooperative, can actually move pretty well into play without too much hand holding, because the rankings are right there. They're printed on your mat. We didn't want anyone to ever have to be embarrassed to ask for that aid. The hand rankings are there right in front of you.
I like
and
that.
And in terms of everything else, the UI on the game is such that it tells you when to bet. When these 3 cards come out, then you bet. And so it's been staged to help people who are new to poker. And because it's cooperative, as things develop on the community, now you can't talk about any cards that are in your hand. Anything that is hidden is hidden. But as those cards come out, you're like, oh, you know what? It looks like a flush is developing. So be mindful of that, everyone. And so you have those kind of conversations, and that does help some newbies.
Yeah.
However, as it relates to how long do I stay in, this is something that I think a experienced poker player is going to have a better sense of those odds and how they develop to a certain extent. As I mentioned earlier, though, they can also get if they're unused to the like a dealer's choice game, which is how I play poker. Like when we've got wild cards and other stuff, I'll stay in longer because there's upside. If you're used to nothing but Texas Hold'em, you see the first 2 cards and your instinct is like, nope, fold. No. There's plenty of game left. So it is an interesting blend of where poker experience helps and when lack of it hurts. So, but I think together, it's a very interesting synergy.
Well,
Well,
my
I think
biggest
that that's
problem.
what we had talked about too, Kurt, before we got on with this. And, Dillon, we had this conversation with him with Huddle of like blending the sports fan with board games. And I think that that's something that this game is going to do extremely well. Is poker, even today is still one of the biggest games that exists. And so there's such a huge market of those people. And for a board gamer, this is the chance to say, hey, I know you like poker a lot. So why don't you sit down and play this board game with me? Because if somebody loves Texas Hold'em, I think that this is a game that they could absolutely sit down and have a really great time because there is such an influence of, because it is Texas Hold'em. But there's a lot of Texas Hold'em players, I think, that probably are like, no, I don't play board games. That's for kids. And I think that this is the kind of entry level game to them where it's like you can really blend those 2 markets extraordinarily well.
Yeah, my group of friends is right in that realm. Like they're not big board gamers. You've really got to have a theme or an experience, and I think this is perfect for them. Like, I will probably play this instead of Huddle at our fantasy football draft because they're all
Well,
big
my
poker
biggest
players.
my biggest problem now is making sure my wife doesn't cheat during regular hands of Texas Hold'em now. So thanks for that.
Well, I think one of the biggest draws for the game is probably going to be the ginormous amounts of people who have become exposed to poker through Balatro.
Yes, you're right.
Because
Balatro's huge, yeah.
because already they're experiencing poker. They might have learned about poker and played it for the first time through Balatro, and they're already used to the idea that you can manipulate the odds through, the building of a hand. Now, you're not actually changing the nature of the deck in this game. But it's the same kind of how can I turn things to tweak things to get my hand to go where it needs to go. Interestingly, I think this is predominantly it's bringing board gamers to poker more than it's bringing poker players to board games because my poker group and I play with dealer's choice. It's not we don't play Hold'em. We're not that serious. We have wild cards and do all kinds of stupid games and it's great. But it would still be a hard sell to get like, wait a second. Now, we could be playing actual poker though, right? So
it's not going to take over poker night. Yeah.
Right. Where's the money? And so if you love poker for that moment, then that's what you do. This is though, if you're a board gamer and you also love poker, well, that's where this just absolutely shines because you can get what feels like an entire poker night done in 90 minutes.
Well, and it feels like a good mix between the game has some elements in there as well as Balatro, like you said, kind of mixed in together with that cooperative working together type of thing. And I think that the game really shows that I think there's a market there. Like when the game first came out, I was like, that's dumb. Who wants to play cooperative poker? And then I
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and I was like, okay, this is not bad. This is actually fun.
Yeah.
And so
And
with this game, it takes it to the next level of, I think the next step up is this game. So
yeah. And the gang is interesting that it's a cooperative mind game that uses poker. Because there you're just trying to communicate through like what the strength of your hand is based on what chip you pull, right? So but the interesting part there too, just like this game, someone who is less experienced in those poker hands, they're going to be less good at communicating because they're like, well, I think I could get a straight, and they grab a high chip and they're like, well, I don't really have a straight yet, so
Curt, what
Agreed.
part of the game tends to surprise people the most when they play test it for the first time with you?
okay, so well, negatively surprise people. There's one thing that always gets people, and that is the fact that when you're playing, one of the ways that you'll be cheating is Texas Hold'em. You get dealt 2 cards. In this game, you get 2 cards plus you get 1 up your sleeve. Now that gives you a hand. Your hole is 3 cards, and it can get even bigger during the course of play. And the hard part of that is to remember that you can still only play 2 of those cards. We even have in the rules a suggestion that you take those excess cards and you tip them sideways in your hand. So you can say, these are the 2 I'm planning on playing. Here are my backups up my sleeve that I can use if I need to. But the danger is if you think you can use all 3 of those cards, it can be very painful, very devastating, and hopefully you only do it once.
Good thing we never did that, Deon.
yeah, good thing we
Good
didn't
thing we
go
never did
all
that.
in on a hand and then realize, oh wait, I can't use more cards in my hand. Too bad we
Yeah.
never did that one. Yeah, good job, there,
Yeah,
Matt.
that one hurt. I went all in. I was betting every chip I could all the way to the end, and I was like, guys, I got it. I got us. We're good. And then I slam it down. Deon's like, what are you doing? You can't do that. I'm like, but I won, Deon. He's like,
Had
you
a
didn't
failure
win.
at his
I
face.
was like, but I won, Deon. Don't take this from me, man.
Yeah. Now, there is a favor card that will allow you to do that. So there is a way to cheat to do it. It's the exception, not the rule. So,
Yeah,
but
I needed that exception.
And I think that's another thing too. Don't be scared when you get this at home, you get it set up and play. Don't be scared to use those favorite cards. They're there to help you get through and win that hand, because we just kept piling them up, and everybody at the table had 3 of them, because you can only keep 3. So and we weren't really utilizing them, and then we were wondering, wow, we're getting our butts kicked. Yeah, because we have all these favors. We're not cashing in. Let's cash these in. Let's bring it to our favor in this hand. So
absolutely.
that's another cheating element that you just forget that you have. I love the layout of the mats, and hopefully we're going to some nice B-roll of them, of where your individual pots in the middle, like I said, the breakdown, and then the 2 cards. I had a thing where turning them sideways wasn't working for my slow brain, so I just kept taking the 2 that I'm going to play and put face down over there, and not make sure that I can't flip them up until I have a card that says I could, or I played a chip that says I could. Right. But then I would set the other ones to the right of my hand. That way, so when it was my turn, I could pick them all back up again and then just set the 2 that I plan on playing and separate them every time, which would help me really keep it in my brain to be like, that's all I can play. This is all I have. Am I still in or not?
And Dillon, I mean, the thing, like, I remember at Gamma, I mean, you were the one that first told me to go see this.
Well,
because
I mean,
of the way it was set up.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt's energy when he delivered kind of the pitch was like, you were just so excited, right? And I feed off of other people's excitement. I'm like, yeah, you're right. This is, and it just like the theme, just the artwork, everything really kind of just like lent into, and I think the blending of these 2 worlds, I'm biased in that realm, but I think you've done just such a great job. And it's interesting when you said board gamers who also like poker, like that really hit home. I'm kind of curious, what do you think, like, and this is kind of piggybacking off of Matt's question, is what do you think the aha moment is for someone who's like playing the game for the first time, like when they're just like, oh yeah, okay, like this is just like this is that experience that I came to try to find, or maybe they didn't even know they were going to be able to find it.
Yeah, and honestly, that I think is the positive surprise that comes out of people playing. Um, I don't know if you've ever tried to play poker without money on the table.
Never.
It's not as fun.
No.
It's just not fun. Like the stakes of poker is what keeps your interest. And the brilliance of this design, and this was true even when Cameron put it on the table the first time in front of us. Um, he found a way to keep a high stakes poker game on the table without cash. And that is the brilliance. I did not think that would actually be possible to feel like I am playing poker, to feel like I've got money on the table when it's just my soul.
That's perfect.
That's what I'm talking about. It was those little zingers when he pitched this game that were just so brilliant. The timing.
Curt, do you have any great favorite moments from all the time you spent playtesting this game with people?
Oh my God.
That's a good start.
It is. So oh God, what boss we were facing? I'm trying to remember. We ended up, I had literally 4 aces. And you would think that 4 aces would be significant enough. I put every chip I had in, and I ended up, we didn't peek at the boss's cards. And I was so convinced that I had it. They flipped over their hand, and they ended up with a, oh God. No, wait, I didn't have aces. I had 4 of a kind, but it couldn't have been because they ended up with a royal flush. And I was like,
Damn.
that's not possible. What? And it was such a hidden bad beat. And the whole table exploded in laughter. And I was just like, all right, well, I can't. I mean, okay, you got me.
Who would make such a dumb game? This is terrible. Flip the table.
Well, I think the experience rates right up there with games like Ready, Set, Bet.
Yeah.
In that same realm of like, you don't have real money on horse racing and you're just rolling these silly dices and you're having that same experience of, I do have some in the game that I want to win and get the most points. With the cooperative edge you put on there, which you've been Smirk and Dagger's been very good at, I would say, putting in sneaky co-op, where it's like cooperative, but you have enough to chew on yourself to where you can't really run the table like I have a problem with cooperative games.
Yeah, that's my biggest gripe. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you've done a very good job at games like Tesseract and the tower one that you drop in and it runs out with the other one. So you've done some really good games with that, and this is another one of those notches as well, I think, on your belt that gives you that ability to be like, hey, this is cooperative and it's not normal cooperative. Of course, you want to be competitive, but you're fighting for your soul, so you got to work together to try to win as many souls as you can so you can walk away from the table saying, hey, I get to keep my soul or whatever it may be, which is really cool and unique. And I think, like, again, the art, who did the art for you? That is next level.
So that's Leon Lim, and
Beautiful.
he's an artist out in China. I saw his work for the first time, I think, on Facebook. I was looking for an artist. I had in my mind, like, it'd be great if we could find something like Has Been Hotel or, and he had a black and white image of Pokemon done in this rubber hose animation style. And it was Gengar and Haunter. And I was like, oh, those could literally be the demons right out of this game. That's cool. And so it's not that we got inspired by Cuphead. It just happened to be that it was that similar retro, like 1930s style animation style.
On a steamboat type of feel that you're gambling on an old time steamboat with the, I liked it. It fit perfectly with the theme, fit perfectly with what even the devil you know versus the devil you don't kind of kick back in there that is in there,
Yeah.
which is awesome. All of them, and you had some special ones in there that we got in the set as well with some
Yeah.
extra copies, and I think we played through at least all of them at least once, but all of them had to be like, oh, look at this one, or oh, look at that one right there,
Yeah.
that fits perfectly, like that's who we're
And he was
playing.
great to work with too. I would do like a paragraph and a half describing who I thought this person, this demon might be, and here's the way they impact the game. And he would just come back and he's like, "Well, I've woven in like the suits in his suit, because his name is Suits Wild, and he's gonna be like, So he just had like a really good sensibility for how to bring it to life. Um,
And that
yeah,
all helps with that table presence that you were talking about before as well. That is all part
yeah,
of that woven into this thematic. And art is huge about that. Like, I'm a big fan of Ian O'Toole because he does such a great job with iconography. And then now, with this gentleman here does such a good job with this, I'm always going to put him down with this gambling feel of they call it Cuphead art, but I think that's shortening a little light because
well, because
it's
a lot of people
I'm
in the
familiar.
modern day know it in the gaming circle because of that game, because
Yeah.
they borrowed that sensibility already.
But we're still
And
old enough where we remember like the Steamboat Willie days. That's more of a
right,
Steamboat Willie art for us. So
right,
if you go Steamboat Willie art, where you can't say that now and get away with it, but that's kind of where it feels like very pre
yeah.
Disney Mickey Mouse, or beginning Mickey Mouse type
Well,
of thing.
it's Fleischer Studio, and
Yeah,
quite honestly, we have a lot more to do with like Betty Boop than we do with Cuphead. Cuphead takes that side of Fleischer where inanimate objects become created as characters. And like they do, like that's the real weird side of it. And we're a little bit more in the Betty Boop Popeye side of it because
Bye
these
bye.
are
That's what it was.
yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, the boatman. If you look at Sharon the boatman,
Mhm.
it's Popeye as a
yeah,
skeleton.
yeah.
So
I see that. That was great. I noticed. I caught it.
Well, and that actually brings me to one of the things that I was thinking about as we were playing the prototype copy that you had so graciously sent us. And again, thank you for that
Hmm.
opportunity. Um, I think when you get a game like this that's so built around the bosses, and I mean that's such an integral part. And of course, the first thing you think is, "Ooh, I want more of those." And so
Mm.
I know with this coming out on Wednesday, you can openly now talk about what's coming out as part of the Kickstarter that everybody's going to be surprised with if they haven't looked at the Kickstarter page yet and they watch this video first.
Okay. So yeah, one of the things that we always thought was important in this game, and we talked about it earlier, like how can you make it easier, right? Um, we wanted this game to be able to be adapted for your group, and so yeah, you can make it easier by adding more souls. You can run the temptation clock a little bit longer if you've got a bunch of new players. There are ways that you can adjust that for your table. But we really balanced it for a blend of old, like, experienced and inexperienced poker players. And we think we found like a pretty good, challenging blend. But as you play this game more, and especially if you're playing with people who do know poker a little bit better, you want a little bit more challenge than this even gives you. And so Wednesday, we dropped a huge announcement. Um, Throughout all the stretch goals and everything else, we ended up from 14 to 22 bosses in the game, which is a lot of variety,
Yeah.
admittedly. Um, Wednesday, we let people know that there was a Hellfire mode. Hellfire is 22 new bosses dropped as one thing, and they take every boss that's in the game and ramp it up. And now you can mix them up. You can, I'll do some Hellfire and some not. You can go all Hellfire and be a glutton for punishment. Um,
Take
and
that dagger.
and exactly. So like the difference is like, here's Demona, right? Demona comes in two flavors now. There's the regular and there's Hellfire. Now Hellfire, all the Hellfire cards have red text. This is what makes them different than their usual version. Now, Demona, she loves when hearts hit the table, and it immediately tells you that you're either going to suffer temptation or fold. Oh, okay. If I want to play, I think okay, I'm gonna play. So I go ahead and I put my chip in, and then she says, "Oh, well, since you're in, you can bet 2 chips now if you want," which is another little honeypot thing. Like, okay, well, how much do you love your hand? How much are you going to commit to this? Now, that's all well and good, but now with Hellfire, she says, "Oh, if you don't fold, you must bet 2 chips." And
Oh.
by the way, Demona can make a heart flush with 4 cards.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Wow.
so all of the bosses take it up a notch, and that's true of all the devils, Nick House, everything. So all 22 got a new special treatment, and man, I like when Gaten and I play, and even though this game is done, right? It's we still love to put it on the table, and we run Hellfire exclusive because we just love that challenge. Yeah, so that's exciting news. It hasn't, as of recording, it hasn't dropped yet, so I can't wait till all the comments start hitting. But by the time this airs, it'll be out there.
Yeah.
Would
And
you
as somebody who's played
advise-
it. No, go ahead, Dylan.
Oh yeah. Would you advise first-time players doing a complete Hellfire round?
I would never do that.
No,
I
the,
asked
the,
this-
the ones they
no,
give you are
I
hard
asked this
enough. Trust me,
because
the
this
ones
is
that he
what I'm
recommends
going
are
to
hard
do.
enough.
That's a terrible idea, Dylan.
That is
That is a
horrible
grade
idea.
A terrible
Well,
idea.
I tell you what.
pull
I tell you what. So long as you play with these guys have played, they've learned all their mistakes, and now, yeah, if you wanna throw some Hellfire in there, I'm totally cool with that. That'll be fun.
Isn't another way to tell is on the card? Isn't there like a fire flame on there as well? Isn't
There
that
is, yeah. It's just in the little top corner there. It's
just kind
an
of tell you that
indicator,
you're
but
playing with the
backs-
Hellfire?
the backs all look the same, so you can mix them and match them. You won't know what's coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you did, as we kind of wrap this part up. Now you did offer some deluxeification, Curt, on the Kickstarter, because I did pay for that.
Yes, you are correct, and it's not that it's a deluxeification per se. It's just that yeah, it is a little bit. So,
Yeah, it is.
all right.
No, yes, it is.
So what we did was, and I've said this on the page as well. Like, we're gamers. We want to keep things nice. I'm sure there will be people who will sleeve this poker deck because it is lovely. It's a custom poker deck with fun art. Cool. But I cannot conceive of playing poker with a sleeved deck. It hurts my soul as a poker player. So, what we wanted to do, because, poker decks are poker decks. You can play any poker deck you want with the game. That was important to us. You can swap out another deck. It doesn't matter. You can still have a great time. But if you want the specialty deck, eventually your core deck is going to wear out. And so we wanted to have extra decks. And since we're printing extra decks, why not do them nice? So these are nice foil decks.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a gold and there is a red. They're also like foil edged. I don't know if you can see here, but so it's both the whole deck is foiled and then the backs, which is lovely. And then the other thing is like, well, since we're doing those, I think we actually have a little bit of space in the cost of that. The dealer chip, the dealer button in the base game, we decided it's just going to be a standard. It's going to be a poker chip. It's fine. It doesn't need to be a bigger thing. But we're like, well, we have a little room here, so let's make a full-size dealer button, and we'll just put it in for the backers for those who decided to do the decks. That'll be a nice little reward for them. So, so yes, that is the extent of that.
So when you play at
But
my house, it's gonna be a shiny deck.
excellent. And please no sleeves. You're killing me.
When you play at Boss Media, it will be sleeved because a lot of people's going to be playing it. So
Well, you're right.
I gotta
Yeah.
keep it as fresh as I can keep it.
Yeah. And then the other thing that we did, obviously we've had we added a lot of bosses and other things, but one of the things that we added mid-campaign, which we had been testing for like 2 months and finally just made sure we pressure tested while the campaign was running and made sure it was tight as a drum, was the solo game.
Ooh.
So when we launched, it had no solo game, but we were like, well, listen, if we're going to be attracting Balatro players, we have to have a solo game.
Yeah.
So, so we were like, well, what's important? What do we want to make sure this solo game does or doesn't do? And the very first thing was, you cannot manage more than one hand. This cannot be a game where I have to do this and then do this. No, focus on your hand. That's the game. That's poker. So then we're like, okay, if that's true, all the other people that are no longer sitting at your table, what are they really giving you as a player? How are they impacting what you do? So we created a series of gamblers that would come and join you, and they join you on rounds 1, 3, and 5. And each of the gamblers has
Nice.
an assortment of cards. It's either 1, 2, or 3 cards. So, here's one that just has, 1 card, and you'll see some are face up and some are face down. So that's what they get dealt. Now, they do not participate in the hand. No showdown with the devil. No, they're not impacted by any of the minions. They're not playing the hand per se. You're not managing their cards. However, by playing that reveal chip, which allows you to reveal 2 of your cards to help communicate around the table and maybe even set up trades, well, that chip still has a function. Now I can play it and reveal what they have. And I can still trade with the cards in their hand. So that part of the game is preserved. Then the other thing we said was, well, the other thing that happens is when another player's at the table, every once in a while, they'll play some kind of a global effect. And, well, we still want to have some of those things feel like other people are here. So what kind of effects, special abilities can we have these guys do? So, for example, this one's like, oh, okay, it's a 3-card hand. That's pretty powerful. This little token thing, it's a little wooden token that comes with it. We get a set of 6 of them. It's a 1-use ability, but you can swap your hand with this gambler. You don't like your cards? Reveal what he has and swap. Go nuts.
Okay.
Let's see. Another one is, this is just a straightforward one. Like 2 charges to peek at a boss's card. Totally helpful. Where another one is, here you go. Spend 1 to swap one of this guy's cards with a community card. That's what you want.
That's
right?
a big one right there.
Yeah.
There
And
it is.
this is in the solo game. So, in any case, there's that added everything that we wanted. And we Cameron and I sat like edge to edge and we played 2 solo games on the same boss hand. And we played like 6 games in a row. So we had like we played all of these like several times. And the system works so beautifully. Like we felt as engaged as we were if we had a table full of people. We had the resources that we needed that they would be providing. And one of our chips didn't go dead because we suddenly couldn't, reveal something. So I think people are going to be most impressed that one, the cooperative nature of this poker game it's almost insidious because yes, you are working together, but you still feel insular. It is your hand. No one is telling you how to manage that hand. They can't. Like,
Mhm.
you're not allowed to talk about hidden information.
Mhm.
So it doesn't feel like a standard co-op where you could quarterback it a lot. It's
Mhm.
just not that game.
Mhm.
However, you're asking for help. Um, and there are ways that, you're allowed to do that. And the solo game, again, there are a lot of solo games that don't do a great job of replicating the core game experience.
Mhm.
And I think that's what this particular solo game does so well.
Uh-huh.
Like, I was shocked. I think Cameron and I both like sat back after the first round of doing this and like, this works way better than we thought.
Well,
So
and solo gaming has become such a craze
yeah,
in the last several years, I'm sure, especially post-COVID, where I think so many games almost feel absolutely forced to put it in the game just so they can put the 1, 2, however
yeah,
many players on the box. And I mean, the amount of views you get on solo game YouTube videos is utterly staggering. So the market is immense in the solo space. So to have that is really important for any game coming out now, I think.
Well, as
yeah,
a retailer, just real quick, as a retailer, I have a lot of people. Some of my best customers, they want to see that one to whatever,
yeah,
because they are going to play it by themselves before they even play it with friends. It's usually just a way to get the game to the table, learn a little bit more about it. That way, so you're
yeah.
teaching it correctly with your friends. And to have a interactive one-player mode is almost a necessity in today's age, I think. So that is that's awesome that you guys took the time and did that. Who would you credit as the designer for the one player side? I know a lot of people are doing like this is the game, so like Aquatica, this is the game done by um uh whoever, but then also it's one player mode was designed by this guy. Are you doing that
Yeah.
with this one as well?
So, weirdly, it really was an interesting collaboration, but not in the traditional sense.
Hmm.
Um, when we were talking about, well, how did you change it from the original? And one of the things that we were really focused on at the outset was balance. How will the game scale from
Yep.
2 players to 4 players? Or do you suddenly don't have enough resources to pull off the things that you're hoping to do? So we looked a lot about that sort of thing. And one of the early thoughts was, well, if we need to, do we need to essentially like have an extra seat fill at the table with some sort of a resource, a dummy player, if that's it's like it seemed really inelegant, but a lot of thought went into it. So Cameron actually developed the idea of the gamblers as a means to potentially balance the game if it really went off kilter. Um, and he had created, abilities. Now, they at that time they were actually playing hands, and I think that still felt clunky. No one wanted to manage that process. Um,
Well, that's what I
but
said when
when
we got the copy. I was like, "Oh, this doesn't have a one player, that kind of stuff." Well, because we got a copy before you announced the single player.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
I said, it kind of sucks. It doesn't have a one player, but I understand it's poker. And then Matt goes, well, I'll just manage 2 hands and play it if I want to play it by myself. And I was like,
yeah.
yeah, but I agree. That's you could do that. But I mean, who wants
It
to
also
really do
helps me
that?
make it also helps make me feel like I have friends when I'm playing 2 hands. That's like a
What do
split
you?
personality thing. We don't need to get
Yeah.
into that.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's different. Your therapist can
Um,
talk later.
but
Go.
honestly, when Gaten and I were traveling back from one of the shows, and I was talking about the marketing and the fact that we are likely going to get a lot of people in from Balatro, and to not have a one player seems like a miss. So how much would it take? And that's when we set the guardrails up. One player, like one hand, and what do we need from the game to simulate other people's activity around us? And so Gayton, I think, remembered Cameron's gambler mechanic and said, "How can we just pivot that slightly?" And so I think it was really Gayton that was the impetus on how, and we created 5 of them on the drive. We just riffed back and forth, like, oh, ability like this. Oh, if they had a hand, some could be face up, some could be face down. Like we went through it and we had 5 working versions, but they were untested. And we got crazy busy. And so they sat in a little bit of a dustbin waiting to get
Make you
attention.
wipe it off. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as we started getting closer to go time, we're like, oh, we still need to do that. So that's when we finally like dusted it off, or like, let's pressure test it. And that led into a weekend with Cameron where we took God, I forget how many we had. It might have been almost 20, and we ended up with 13 that were just like, and of course 13 just seems like a good number.
No, I agree. Good number. With this game especially.
Well, that's going to wrap up what we have for Hell of a Deal. And I think it's important to remind people you still have some time to go and back this game. It's still on Kickstarter until Friday, April 10th. Make sure you go back it. It's $65 right now. And also for the Deons of the world out there, they do have the retail pledge. So if you want to make sure that you support your friendly local game store, make sure that you go into the store and tell them you want Hell of a Deal, and they need to go make the pledge right now, so that way they can get the copy through the friendly local game store and make sure that they're supporting them in the product. So with that said, Curt, we're going to go ahead and go to one of my favorite segments. We're going to get to know a little bit of you. Rapid fire. I don't want you to think about the answers. I just want you to say them. And so this is what we call feet to the fire.
The answer is blue.
What's
7. Blue.
Yes. Oh my God, how'd you know?
Always blue.
How did you know? Who's going to win tonight? The blue team. That was a basketball joke. Go blue. All right. Your games are known for causing a little chaos at the table. What's the most outrageous or ridiculous thing you've ever seen during play testing?
Oh.
I can't even answer that. What's the most ridiculous thing? Oh, all right. Well, the most ridiculous thing that we deal with more times than we should is, I'm choking.
This is making him emotional. This is a story that chokes him up.
With almost it's almost ritual here. The thing that is the most ridiculous during play testing is where Gaten and I will start fighting about a point that we are desperately trying to make, and then about a half hour later realize we're making the same point and we don't know it.
All right, number 2. You've been in the industry for a very long time. What's one thing about the board game industry that people outside the industry would be shocked to learn?
So I think the benefit of the board gaming industry is what an amazing community it truly is.
Yeah.
I think most people who work in other industries, they are talking about other companies as competitors. They've got almost an adversarial relationship with retailers. Like there is a whole different vibe that happens in other industries that we don't have. Even in the other side of the toy and game industry, designers, they've got trade secrets. They won't talk to anyone, not even other designers, not friends, about the games they design. Like it's a tight-lipped situation, where here people are just like, I'll help you build a thing. Like, I take my idea. I don't care. Like it's a different animal. And the fact that I can send an email to another company and say, hey, what's a gold standard for something like this? The fact that I can go to the Gamma trade show and have a conversation with retailers that like actually takes some of their insights and helps inform products. Like this just doesn't happen in other industries. And I think for anyone who's really, invested in some other industry, that would surprise them the most.
Okay. Number 3, brutal honesty here. We've had a lot of people enter the board game space. There's 3 to 5,000 new games made every single year, and that is coming from a lot of new developers and publishing companies. So what's the most common mistake new board game designers make?
New board game designers or new board game publishers?
Whichever one you want. I'd say designers, but you can go publishers too.
Let's go both.
Okay.
Dylan's like, tell me both, please.
Yeah, I want to hear about both.
Read me.
Okay. New board game designers. New board game designers have a tendency to not understand how do I want to actually position this?
I had the same thing in the video game development industry. You have some of the best creators ever, but they don't understand how to market and push their product or how to get people to play it.
Right. And honestly, where I was going with it was to recognize those things in their game that are actually selling their game. So it's not that it's like people will put together like a sell sheet and they won't understand what to put in it. And they'll say, oh, well, I understand that I need to have like the hook of the game, but they don't know what that is. So they put something they think is a hook. And so my advice to designers all the time is twofold. One, you have to, when you're done with your play test and you're waiting for feedback, do the hardest thing you can possibly do, which is sit in silence. And you're waiting for the first spontaneous thing that someone says. And that will tell you more than writing down all the things that, you can ask them would ever do. And importantly, what you're waiting for is someone pretty consistently from test to test say, when is this coming out? When can I get a copy? Anything that shows a desire to own. Because until you have that, you have a good game. But a good game is not enough to actually make it anymore. So you need to have a game that is proven that it will sell because people want to pay you right now for it, even if it's a prototype. So that's the thing I think that's the earned wisdom for designers to first stepping in.
Okay.
I think that's two separate things of the brain. It's like the brain of creativity doesn't always create the brain of business.
Yeah.
And I think those are hard to crush together a lot in every industry I've been a part of where there is creativity. It's hard to understand the creativity part still needs to make money to keep the creativity part going.
Yeah. And then when you're doing the demo, like I tell them, like, you will know what to put in the sell sheet as soon as you start seeing the faces light up. When you tell them the premise and they sit there like, that's not it. Like, but you tell them the cool mechanic that does this, and they're like, oh, like anytime they're like, tell me more, that needs to go in the sell sheet. That's what's actively selling your game.
Perfect.
A temptation wheel.
Number 4. What's a board game mechanic you think is absolutely terrible? Overrated, garbage, you don't like it?
So I have a very personal relationship with some mechanics that don't make them bad. They're just not for me. I am not a huge lover of I don't like a lot of hidden trader games. I don't like a lot of oh my god, deeply mathematical games. Like Power Grid to me is like, I'm sure, like, I've got friends who love the game, but to me, it feels like it's an Excel sheet that we're all playing together. I don't need that. What anything that's like political, like I don't want like live negotiations or like political themed games even. Like those are all things that like kind of put me off.
Okay.
But
So
It doesn't make
definitely
it
no
doesn't make
Turing
them bad.
machine in your game library, huh?
What's that?
No Turing machine in your game library.
Probably not. No.
Perfect. Well, last one of my favorite questions to ask. I've asked everybody this question, and it's not about sales, which some people take it to, but in the history of board games for Curt, what is one game, if you could go and steal it and make it a Smirk and Dagger game, that you would steal from another company and make it yours?
I got 2 answers for that.
Okay.
One is Wiz War, which is why I'm here. Wiz War, I just got so swept up and taken with Tom Jolly's design. I've actually talked to Tom Jolly and tried to convince him to let me print it, and didn't work out because at that same time they were talking to other folks. But in any case, then the other one, Quacks of Quedlinburg. I mentioned it earlier in the cast. Like I put that game in front of so many people, and it always delights. It's just a lovely little design. I adore it. And I can bring it out for anybody, and they're gonna have a great time with it. So
Yeah.
that'd be another one.
That was for sale recently, wasn't it?
What's that?
Didn't CMKY just buy that recently?
Oh my God, wait, is that right? Well, there you go. Missed
Yeah,
opportunity.
they just redone it recently. That's the whole new art and everything. Because
Oh,
CMYK came out and grabbed it while it was still, and so they reprinted it. I like
I
the old
didn't
art
realize.
better, but
Yeah.
yes, it was that was
You
a
had a
missed
shot, Curt. You
opportunity
had a
for you there,
shot.
Curt.
You
Yeah.
had a shot. Should have made a hell of a deal on it.
Yeah.
We
Home.
So, Curt, thank you so much for taking all this time with us tonight. It was so great to learn about you, more about Smirk and Dagger, and most importantly, to learn so much about Hell of a Deal. Again, it's on Kickstarter now through April 10th, Friday. Make sure you get it. Make sure you go to your friendly local game store. Tell them to get the retail pledge and support your friendly local game store as well. But definitely check this game out. It definitely gets a Champions Tabletop approval now that we've had a chance to play the prototype. And we can't thank you enough for all the time tonight. And before you go, viewer, don't forget, this might be the last time that we ever see you if you don't hit that subscribe button. And that would make us all very, very sad. So please make sure you hit that button. See us again. We'll definitely be bringing a play video with Hell of a Deal, so you can check that out. And hopefully Dillon will be heading up north here soon to play that with us. Dillon right there. Hop on that plane, good buddies. So with that said, good night, everybody. And remember, champions never
Stop.
playing.
Good night, everybody.
Cause nobody's better than me. What do you see? Give it up.